What is up, RotoGrinders? Happy weekend, happy Saturday, NBA crunch time. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich, back in action. Feel like we were talking about this pre-show. We haven't seen our lovely viewers in a while, so it's great to have another TWT weekend. Joining me is my good buddy, Will Priester. How you doing today, Will?
I'm good, man. Glad to come on and see my people. I hadn't seen anybody. It feels like forever. I got to know Chill, my boys in the chat, Derek. Everybody's here, so let's hopefully, man, I can help these people make a little money on a meager 4-game slate.
Small slate, but it is a little bit of a fun one. I think we got a little few smidgens of value in the 3K range, some solid 5K value, and a decent amount of spend ups to cheer for as well. So looking forward to diving into it, helping us break it down as well. Taylor Smith, how you doing today, Taylor?
Doing pretty well. Happy to be back with you guys. I was just seeing if there was any news outstanding. I guess the stuff we're waiting on is Utah with Markkanen and Collins questionable. Seems like it'd be surprising if they played on a back-to-back, but I guess you never know. But otherwise, it should be pretty chill unless, we get the random Embiid scratch or something like that, which is always in play, but hopefully not today.
Hopefully not today. And like you said, we are still waiting on that Utah news. There is a good chance we don't get it before lock. That game's not till 9:30 Eastern. The lock is at 7:30 Eastern today. We got an hour difference between the first 3 games and then just a half-hour difference for the last one. So good chance we don't get that news until a little bit later. But I think Houston is probably going to be one of the top teams to target on the slate. So there's a good chance we're going to have the roster spots available to adjust with that one if we need to. What's up to the chat? They're already having fun. Derek's saying my hair is getting long. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces. What's up, everybody? Smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you're watching on your phone, it's a little difficult. You got to pick 2 steps, hide chat, then hit the like button. On your computer, all you got to do is take the mouse, slide it over, hit the like button. Help us out. It does wonders for us battling that YouTube algorithm. And we're going to help you break down the slate. We'll go game by game here. We got the time. We got 45 minutes, but there's only 4 games. So we'll go game by game. Then we will go position by position. And, NBA is here. We're in the midst of it. We just got the break. We're finally going to be getting these playoff pushes. But we got baseball starting up too. So if you're playing in multiple sports, you should check out this sweet deal. For a limited time, get your first month of Combo Pro for $79.99. That's just $15 more than PGA Premium and $5 more than NBA Premium. Talk about a value play. Or if you're just wanting to play some NBA, you should check out the shot quality projections. If you want access to some of the most advanced NBA data in the market, get shot quality projections for Lineup HQ. RotoGrinders.com/shot quality. You can get 1 month access for $40 or yearly for $200. Just want to give it a test run? Try the 3-day pass for $9.99. Or if you're a props guy, you're a pick'em site guy or girl or person, be sure to try our props and pick'em package for a discount. The props and pick'em package features daily prop picks and fantasy pick'em selections for many of your favorite RotoGrinders experts. We're knocking 50% off, half of the price for your first month when you sign up at the link down below right there in the description. So make sure you check that out. Let's start off with the first game on the slate. Probably the least interesting, but because of how cheap the entirety of Brooklyn's team is, still going to be getting to some players in this first game of the night as well. Will, I'll throw it to you first. Brooklyn, Philadelphia, 10.5 point spread in this one. Who do you like?
Well, I think because of the size of the slate, you will, want to play a couple guys. So, like, for instance, a guy like Cam Johnson on DraftKings at, not Cam Johnson, geez. Yeah, Cam Johnson, sorry. I was about to think about somebody else, but yeah, Cam Johnson at 57.
I always mix up Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson.
Yeah. I was like, wait, get out of my head, man. Stop it. It is Cam Johnson. So at 5,700, I definitely think he's someone you can consider. Should be able to be pretty productive in this spot. Expecting Zaire Williams also to pick up some minutes here. because this team just seems to be decimated. If it's reasonably close, I mean, I assume he plays 28 minutes or so. So I think at 4,700, he's someone you can look at. Quite frankly, I think any of these guys, like even Nick Claxton at 5,400, I think is still reasonable. I'm probably not as interested in Killian Hayes as most might be, but 3,600, I definitely think you get some exposure. They're just this team is just super cheap. If they don't get blown out, like just the doors blown off, all of them could be reasonably productive. So I think Brooklyn is a good source of value today. I'm going to go ahead and answer this question just in case someone asks it, because I think they will. How many nets is too many nets? I wouldn't go past 3. I think 3 is my max. I'm probably going to settle in on 2.
Yeah, I think 3 would be my max as well. Probably settle in on 2. But having said that, like I think 2 is probably going to be the number that ends up optimal for the Nets, but it is a bit of a crapshoot as to who they're going to be. So playing 150 lineups today, and I'm just going to be mix and matching these guys. Probably not play a ton of their guards together, not a ton of their big men together, but getting 2 to 3 of them in most of my lineup. Who do you like on the Nets, Taylor? And then lead us into the 76ers.
Yeah, I have a lot more interest in Brooklyn than Philly, just a price thing. On DK in particular, they're all pretty underpriced. Not generally a team you want to target, but on a small slate, it's kind of a necessity. So Cam Johnson on DraftKings, 5,700 does seem like an underprice, even with his minutes kind of hovering around 30 most nights. I still think that's okay. Claxton and Day'Ron Sharp, wouldn't play them together, of course, but individually, I think they're pretty strong plays on their own. I think the most alluring piece is probably Trendon Watford off the bench, playing around 20 minutes or so since Ben Simmons left. Decent per minute guy, has some ball handling skills and stuff, so he's not bad. And then I think even Keon Johnson has shown occasional upside, so I don't hate that. Killian Hayes is probably a fade into ownership that I'm just going to risk. If Killian Hayes beats me, I'm okay with that. Could start with D'Angelo Russell out, but he was unemployed like a week ago, so I'm not super worried about it. I think he's a fine value, all things considered, but I would just rather take shots elsewhere if he's going to be into ownership. On the Philly side, it's really just Embiid and Maxey and maybe the occasional Quentin Grimes. Embiid at 9.4 on DK is a pretty good price. Ditto for Maxey at 9.1. Probably just getting one of these guys, like 1/6er in a lineup, is probably the most I would do just because of the price tags. Grimes has played big minutes, so I think he's okay as a mid-range value. They do have Lonnie Walker available. We'll see how much he plays or if he eats into into the minutes of guys like Ricky Council or Kelly Oubre or someone like that. But I think I'm still fine with Grimes. He's played well, kind of earned the minutes, so I'm okay with that as a mid-range play. But that's really it. Not really into Oubre. Paul George has been awful, so kind of just Embiid, Maxey, and Grimes for me.
Yeah, that is it for me as well. And those are the only 3 76ers I have in my pool. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Maxey is, yes, my lowest owned player. I have him in one of my 150 lineups. I have Embiid at about 10%. And then I have a little bit more Quentin Grimes than that just because of his price tag. Chief, how many lineups are you playing tonight, and how much 76ers do you expect to get to?
One. I'm just playing single entry, man. It's 4 games. So I don't really want to go too far off the reservation. I do have some strong interest in Embiid tonight, especially on DraftKings, but most people do. I mean, I think he's projected around 20%, at least last I checked. Could have changed a little bit, but so people are interested. I just think at some point he's going to pop for real, right? Like at some point, 65, 70 fantasy points, 80 fantasy points is coming. Why not against Brooklyn at home? So at 9,400, I like him. I'm with you on Paul George. Does anybody remember when Paul George was 8K as like a floor, and now he's down to 6,900? This is insane. But he's been so bad. I don't. He's on a team where they really don't need to count on him. Isn't Philly where all the better small forward, power forwards just go to die with Embiid and Maxey there? I mean, and I know Tobias Harris wasn't really there for a lot of the Maxey, regime, but gosh, man, he went to Philly and just fell off a cliff. Same thing with Paul George. I wouldn't want to go play in Philly right now if I was any type of elite level or 4-year max small forward, power forward. I digress. Bottom line, give me Maxey, give me Embiid. I don't mind scrapping everybody else.
All right, Lakers and Denver Nuggets getting a little bit more exciting with this one. It's a 6.5-point spread. Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, two buddies going toe-to-toe against each other. We got the Lakers finally looking pretty healthy. They still don't have a center, but at least they're looking pretty healthy. With LeBron, Luka, and Reeves all playing together. Jokic is my favorite play on the slate. I can't believe he's only going to be 15%. I guess that's FanDuel. He's only going to be 15%. DraftKings projecting just above 20, but I still thought it was going to be higher. Taylor, we'll start it off with you on this one. Talk to me about the Lakers and the Nuggets. I love me some Jokic tonight. I'm going to be tripling the field.
Yeah, Jokic's ownership is always kind of hard to peg because he typically is lower than you would think, and then he comes in higher than the ownership projection might say. So he could come in higher owned than that, but it is a slate with pretty sketchy value, so maybe not. I think a balanced build with like the Rockets that we're going to talk about is viable. So I'm highly interested as well. I think Murray also is still a bit underpriced. He's kind of volatile. Like he's had a wide range of outcomes, shown a low floor and a high ceiling, but against the Lakers, not a very good defense, especially with Luka in there. So no problem with that. I think Westbrook is kind of an okay tournament play off the bench. Minutes might not be so secured now that he's not starting, but I think he's fine. And then Aaron Gordon's still cheap on DK. 4,800 is pretty reasonable for him. He's kind of bounced back a bit after struggling post-injury. And then MPJ might see like around 30 minutes, but matchup's good. So Denver on the whole looks like one of the more appealing teams. I think you can make a case for like 5 or 6 guys. Probably wouldn't play more than 3 of them, salaries considered, but no problem with like Jokic and Murray together on this kind of slate.
Exact same page with you on that one. I love getting some Denver. Just did my newest run, and I'm getting to 58% Jokic in my builds. Will, Lakers, Denver. How are you prioritizing Jokic versus Embiid? Who do you like among the big 3 on Lakers? And would you even consider any of the others?
On DraftKings, I think I'm still leaning Embiid a little bit because of it's almost a 3K difference in price. So I think being able to utilize Embiid and maybe upgrade. So that's another reason why I'm probably settling in on 2 nets. Like I want to at least keep another guy that I feel like can get me 50 or more in that, 7 or 8K range. For me, that's probably the difference between me taking, and I'm not trying to jump ahead, Amen Thompson versus, Jalen Green or something. You get what I'm saying? Like just giving me that flexibility to try to pop a little bit more upside. So it's a B for me because of the salary difference, but I might also be able to get a Jokic. Who knows? But Jokic is definitely, if I had to play one stud all the way at the top, definitely Jokic. I'm not interested in the Lakers tonight, and maybe that's a fail by me, but I feel like Austin Reeves is overpriced. Luka.
They all feel a little overpriced considering they're all there.
Yeah, exactly. Luka at 10-6. Once again, this is a guy that we know can get 80 fantasy points, but I just don't see it right now. He's going to have to prove it to me in a Lakers uniform, and it will come. But I think, still some – they got to shake off some of the cobwebs there. Yeah, I'm just not thrilled about the Lakers. It's pretty much Jokic for me, and then Aaron Gordon's just so cheap on DraftKings at 4,800. I think you just need to get him in some lineups.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. We got Houston and Utah, maybe the most exciting DFS game on the slate. Houston is looking great with no Fred VanVleet, no Tari Eason. And then on the Utah side of things, less exciting. But if John Collin and Lauri Markkanen are both going to sit, if they're to both sit tonight, they look a lot more interesting as well. Will, starting it off with you here, I think Amen Thompson is probably going to be the highest owned play on the slate, and he is probably the best play on the slate as well. what are you going to do with the Amen chalk, and who else do you like on Houston?
So ironically, he's not as chalky. And let me refresh here because I just want to make sure. But I don't think he's as chalky as we felt like he was going to be.
FanDuel, he is. DraftKings, not so much.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I am talking specifically DraftKings right now, but like on DraftKings right now, at least according to our ownership projections, Denny Abdi is popping as the highest owned at 42%. Jabari's at pretty much 40 at 39, and Thompson at 27. On a 4-game slate for a guy that anticipate is going to be a really good point per dollar play, and also possibly have a little bit of meat on the bone outside of the projection. I'll take 27% on a 4-game slate any day. What you, Taylor? I'm perfectly fine with that relative to the amount of games we have. Taylor, you agree with that?
Yeah, and the matchup is one of the better ones you can have. So I'm not like it's a back-to-back, and they're traveling between the games, so it's like not an ideal spot for a guy who kind of has to get his stuff with effort. Like he's not a scorer necessarily. He's got to be getting rebounds and steals and blocks and things like that, but he's athletic enough to where I think he's going to be okay. So 40-ish minutes also.
Yeah,
he's played, I think, 40
he's
plus.
young, while the other guys are tired. And I mean, I guess their whole team's young, but other guys will be tired, and it'll just leave more rebounds for him.
Right. And, the minutes are very safe. No Van Vliet, so he's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. No Tari Eason and all that. So since they're pretty shorthanded, I just think the minutes are very safe. Even if the game blows out, I'm not super concerned. Like they will run their guys pretty deep into a blowout. So I think he's pretty safe, even at huge ownership and huge for his for what we're used to. He's pretty expensive, but the ceiling's there, so I had no issue with it. And then I think you can make a case for like 5 or 6 Rockets, like Şengün. It's a good spot for him, even with Kessler. We think in Jalen Green, of course, without Van Vliet's going to have the ball in his hands quite a bit. Jabari Smith is going to be very popular, assuming he starts with Tari Eason out. Played 37 off the bench last night. I think I like Dylan Brooks just as a pure pivot from Jabari. He's going to get like a third of Jabari's ownership. They're pretty comparable plays. The minutes are going to be similar for both, so I don't have an issue with Dylan Brooks. And then even Aaron Holiday, I think you can punt in his role off the bench without Van Vliet. Minutes should be somewhat decent, and he's super cheap. So I don't mind him as like a pivot away from someone like Killian Hayes.
I like it. What about on the Utah side? Are you going to be getting to, if their Markkanen and Collins guys are in, you going to play Utah at all? If they're out, are you going to play Utah at all?
Regardless, I think I'm going to play some Keontae, George, and Isaiah Collier. Just without Clarkson and Sexton, the minutes are going to be pretty safe for both of them. Their prices have come up as well, but they've kind of earned it. The matchup's not very good either, but I do feel pretty confident in the minutes. If the bigs are out or one of them is out, someone like Filipowski could see a few more minutes as well. He's under 5K on DK. I don't mind that. It's kind of tough with the rest of them, though. They have guys like Jaden Springer now. KJ Martin's there now. So it's a pretty full squad, even if Collins and Markkanen are out. I guess Svi could be okay. He's been happy to gun in the starting role when he's gotten it this season. And then I still think you can look to Kessler around 7K, might be at 7K on both sites. Matchup with Şengün means he's going to be out there quite a bit. And it's going to go overlooked from an ownership standpoint, I think. So Kessler, I think, is pretty good in tournaments.
Love that. I'm going to do a little Kessler in tournaments as well. Collier and George, the only other Utah players in my pool, and I think it'll remain that way, even if Markkanen and Collins are ruled out. That would just make me like those three even more. Will, how about you? You getting any Utah in your one lineup?
It depends. That game's at 9:30. I am leaving some room, just in case. I honestly, I kind of want them to play because I want Houston to be able to max out this value tonight. So, for all intents and purposes, please, I for sure want Laurie and Collins to play. If I had to wish that one of them would sit, it's probably Laurie for me. I do feel like Collins has flashed some raw upside this season. We haven't really seen a lot from Laurie. So yeah, and then I totally agree on Collier and Keontae. I'm not really a Keontae George guy. I do want to make that clear. Like he's usually like a last resort roster for any type of contest, whether cash or tournaments. But if those guys sit, like we've seen, Collier, we've seen him be able to hit in the 40s. And then Keontae, in the right situation, we've seen him hit the 40s a few times, mid 30s. If those guys sit, then I'm definitely more interested on a 4-game slate than I would be for a guy like Keontae on like an 8-game slate.
Absolutely. I feel you on that one completely. Charlotte and Portland, last game of the night. Then we will go position by position, talk about the cash game plays, talk about favorite tournament pivots off of those cash game plays, and then we'll take your questions, get them in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat, then pop them in the YouTube chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, all we ask is that you smash that like button for us. Charlotte and Portland, we got a 5.5-point spread on this one. Two bad teams playing some basketball that might be fantasy friendly. We'll start it out with you here, Taylor, for Charlotte. LaMelo Ball looking like one of the more popular spend ups on the slate, but he looks pretty darn good too as well. I like me some LaMelo in tournaments. Who do you like on Charlotte?
Yeah, it's pretty much the big three, kind of like the Lakers. I really don't have much interest in anyone other than LaMelo or Bridges or Mark Williams. So, and on FanDuel, LaMelo and Williams are cheaper than they are on DK, so they look really good over there. Williams in particular at 7.6. No issue with any of them. Bridges has been quite good of late. The minutes are very safe for him. So those three all look good individually. I don't know if I'd play more than one together necessarily, just the way the salaries work out, but those three are good. After that, like I guess you could try Nick Smith or like Nurk off the bench, but don't really see a need. So just those three and not much else.
Yeah, chat's been talking a little bit about Yusuf Nurkic and Butto Jenkins bringing up the revenge narrative. That's been a while since he's played for Portland, and I'm not worried about revenge, but I do think against a team that's just like they're going to mostly have a center on the court, I do think Nurkic is somewhat interesting off the bench. You can play 16 minutes and put up like 28 fantasy points. Will, how about you? Who do you like on the Charlotte Hornets, and then lead us into Portland?
So Charlotte, believe it or not, I'm going to start on the bench here. Give me Nurk at 4,600. I think he's kind of a favorite of mine. I feel like he's a little sneaky on a 4-game slate, right? Because he's here's what I'm saying that the value is a little bit more thin than some of the other guys that have solidified minutes, and so I just think he's going to get left out in the cold. But as a guy that you can kind of plug into the utility, I mean, he's got just as good of a shot to get 25 to 30 fantasy points as any of these other, 4K guys from, say, Brooklyn. So I do like him quite a bit as a sneaky play on this slate. I agree with you guys on LaMelo. Definitely a spot where he should be able to get off. We haven't really seen Mark Williams, explode since coming back. I know he was on this ramp up for conditioning since the Lakers rejected the trade or however they did it. So maybe we get 50 fantasy point Mark Williams tonight, but I wouldn't play him over LaMelo. So it's LaMelo and Nurk for me. Those are my main two, and then Diddy's getting a whole lot of love tonight. I want to talk to you guys about Diddy. So, do I think Diddy could go off in this slate? Yes. But I don't think – I think even if I was mass multi-entering TJ, I think I'd be fading a 49% Diddy tonight. That's just me. Not that I don't think he could get 35 fantasy points. And it is a small slate, and 35 of his price would be great. But you're telling me we're getting Denny at 50%. I think that's a little that's a whole lot of ownership that you could just really get past if he just happens to finish with 32 fantasy points. You can overcome that. I think the ownership's too high for the cost of admission here. What are you guys' thoughts? I'm on fade Denny. I think that's my big stand of the night on the slate.
I have 12% in 150 lineups, so I'm going to be way underweight on him.
Yeah, it's kind of out of control how popular he is.
It's crazy.
I understand it, but I think there's enough else in that range, especially at the forward spots. Like even on his team, I think Jeremy Grant as a leverage play who's cheaper, who's been horrible lately, but all we need him to be good we only need him to be good for one game. So I think I'm okay with that. I will have some. It's not a full fade for me, but definitely going to be under on the current number.
Or, I mean, it's not a straight up 1-for-1 at the exact same position pivot, but like Scoot Henderson, Klingon, or Shaden Sharp too. All of them totally viable pivots off of Denny Avdia today, and somebody who could directly benefit from him not performing well. How do you guys feel about the centers for Portland? Both Klingon and Robert Williams. Klingon, somebody you'd be considering a lot more for single entry and just in tournaments in general. But Rob Williams, I think one makes for an interesting pivot off of Klingon. I was more interested in that earlier in the day when I thought Klingon was going to pick up more ownership. But Rob Williams at 3,900 on DraftKings, he is questionable. So obviously if he doesn't play, you don't want him. But if he does and gets 18 to 20 minutes tonight, I think he could absolutely smash against Charlotte. And so I think he's a very strong, low floor, high ceiling tournament play. If he's questionable, I think you can just do the pivot to Jabari Walker and just say like, hey, I hope he plays 16 to 20 minutes. And from a fantasy, not in real life, but from a fantasy standpoint, they're almost the same guy. So if Walker just steps into Robert Williams's minutes, I think that would be an even lower owned straight line pivot you could do in the last game of the night.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. And I don't even think it's crazy to play Williams and Klingon together on DK since it is a small slate and they're cheap. Not something I would normally do, but then you can just do the pivot and eat the salary with Williams down to Walker. So I do like that a lot. But if
I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of that either, Taylor. I don't think a lot of people are going to be doing that.
I feel like Williams is less likely to play than he is to play, considering his history, but you never know. And if he does, like, just build with Williams and then pivot down to Walker, if that happens. Building with Walker and then having to pivot up to Williams would be a bit difficult. But, yeah, I think you're fine either way. I think both would be very good plays if depending on what happens there.
Yeah, behind Jokic, they actually came in as my second and third highest owned centers just because I'm trying to build all of my lineups double-centered today. And so while I am mixing in the likes of Şengün, Kessler, Williams, Embiid, I'm trying to get 10+% of all of those guys. I find myself going to the cheaper options, Klingon, Williams, Claxton, Nurkic, Sharp, a lot because of how much Nikola Jokic I'm getting to today. Let's start going position by position here. We are getting pretty tight on time. We got about 17 minutes to lock. Still lots of time to get through it, but I want to save lots of time for questions. So we'll say we'll do FanDuel first, followed by DraftKings as we usually do. But let's make it Taylor, you handle the cash game plays. Will, you handle the tournament plays. And of course, like if you guys got hot takes for the opposite, you can get them. You know the drill. But that'll be the focus. And so starting off at FanDuel point guard, Taylor, who are we playing today in cash games?
Yeah, so FanDuel point guard's pretty rough on this slate. You don't have Amen Thompson there. You don't even have Austin Reeves there. So I think Jamal Murray is probably someone you're just paying for at 8-4. Going to be chalky, but with good reason. Otherwise, I think you can live in that mid-range with Simons or Keontae George or Collier. And Scoot Henderson would be probably the cheapest I'd go at 5-2. I think he's perfectly fine, even off the bench. Got 30 minutes in the last game with a similar lineup there for Portland. So Murray is the one I would definitely have. And then after that, it's essentially Simons, George, or Collier, or Scoot.
I'm going to be honest. I think there'd be a pretty good chance that I would end up just playing Killian Hayes because he's so cheap. And I feel like there's a good chance nobody other than Ball or Luka put up more than 35 points today. So if that's the case and you get 20 out of him, probably sitting pretty. Will, who do you like today? FanDuel tournaments at point guard.
Give me Ball and Collier. I think that's the combo. I feel like that's the right combo. And while chalky, I think it's right. I think that's the way to go.
On FanDuel, where they both have nice price tags, would you guys be okay with playing both Collier and George in the same lineup?
Yeah, I think I would, especially if Markkanen and Collins are out.
Yeah.
All right, shooting guard position, Taylor, who is the cash game play? We're currently projecting a 73% optimal rate for Amen Thompson today.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think I would be happy with that. Amen Thompson's like he was a core play for me for sure on both sides. So certainly someone you're playing in cash. And I think Jalen Green's probably the other one. Just embrace the Rockets, the high usage guards they have, going to play huge minutes. Beyond that, you can play Jamal Murray there, but I think point guard is where you want him. Like I said, don't hate Dylan Brooks, but that's probably a small forward thing. I think I would just do Green and Amen and move on in cash.
Will, how about you? Who you like it in tournaments? Looking like the Utah guys and the Rockets guys are projecting real well in Sims.
Yeah, definitely like Green, definitely like Thompson. I think the upside is there in this spot. I saw somebody ask about Toumani Camara. I think he's a reasonable play. Also at 5,800, I think that's fine. But yeah, definitely for me, if I had to choose one, I feel like on FanDuel I go with Green over Thompson. I know it sounds crazy, but it's because of what I want to do at the center position. So give me Green over Thompson in tournaments. If I'm making a pair, if I can get in Thompson too, I think I would do it. But I feel like Dylan Brooks is the guy I plug in. I think I go Green and Brooks in tournaments.
They say don't hate the player, hate the game, but I feel the complete opposite. I hate Dylan Brooks, the player, but I love DFS, the game. And Dylan Brooks is looking pretty low owned, especially on FanDuel. Taylor, you brought him up on DK. Will, now you're talking about him on FanDuel. Like, he's looking like a pretty darn good pivot, especially considering he's so cheap on FanDuel. So I like that call quite a bit. Small forward, Taylor, who's the cash game play? Do you prefer Amen at shooting guard or small forward? And then even if you are playing Green and Brooks at small, or Green and Thompson at shooting guard, are you putting in Brooks at small forward too?
Yeah, I think I do prefer Amen at shooting guard, and then small forward is kind of tough. It depends on what you want to do at center. If you don't want to play Jokic, I think LeBron is someone you want to play at small forward on FanDuel or power forward. And then Jeremy Grant, same thing, 5,500, just cheap. Good price on him. Denny's more of a DK play than a FanDuel play, but still fine at 7K. I'm okay with it. And then Dylan Brooks, like you said, if you want to save, small forward is probably where I'd play him instead. I mean, obviously he and Amen are interchangeable, so it doesn't really matter. If you can't quite stomach Grant and you have a little extra salary, I think Kamara's fine. But if I'm paying down for a center, I think LeBron is someone I definitely want to have.
I think Shaden Sharp at only 5,300 with small forward eligibility is pretty interesting on FanDuel as well for large field tournaments, not a cash game play. But, Will, I think my favorite guy to pair with one of these Rockets at small forward is probably going to be Zaire Williams for tournaments at only 5K.
Yeah, definitely Zaire for me. The minutes should be there today. Once again, the more I'm kind of tinkering here and building a little bit right before lock. I think I'm just going to have Green, Brooks, and Thompson. I'm going to pair them with Zaire here at the small forward spot. I think that's how I'm going to end up. It's just in terms of what I feel like is the perception of the upside these guys have, I think it's the right call. So for me, I like Thompson more. I like Williams more. I'm perfectly fine with someone wanting to throw in LeBron if you want to, but I think Thompson might have equal upside to LeBron as long as him and Luka play tonight. So that's kind of my read there. I hate Cam Johnson is so expensive on FanDuel. Like, man, if he was 5,500, 56, 57 on FanDuel, I'd get him in, but I just can't play him at 6,600 on FanDuel.
Taylor, FanDuel cash, I feel like you're for sure playing Green, Thompson, and Jabari Smith here, power forward. Who would be your fourth Rocket for cash? And then who else do you like at power forward to pair with Jabari?
I think Trendon Watford might be the one I would land on. Just super cheap. He has a role. Like we said, Brooklyn's a pretty good source of value on both sides. So I think Watford is where I'd go here. It's otherwise like Jeremy Grant. We mentioned Avdia. If you have a little more money, LeBron, you can play here. But Jabari's a lock for cash. And then Trendon Watford is probably the one I'd pair him with.
All right. Center position for cash, Taylor.
So Jokic, if you don't pay for LeBron.
Will, power forward for tournament.
Yeah. Jabbar is probably going in. It's just kind of how the slate is broken out. hear me out here. I know this sounds crazy. I'm probably more likely to play Denny on FanDuel than I am on DraftKings just because of the price difference. I know it's just a little bit of game theory, but I'm not playing him on DraftKings at all. I want to play Jeremy Grant. I think Jeremy Grant, could be a good play tonight here. I think if you're hunting for like high minutes, rough production guy that could get you there, Dorian Finney-Smith could be interesting at 4,200. He's playing over 30 minutes. Like it could get interesting, but all in all, it's Jabari and then whoever you decide to pair with. I'm still perfectly fine with Aaron Gordon, and I may end up with Aaron Gordon at 5,600, but definitely Jabari.
Taylor, you spending all the way up for Jokic? What are you doing in FanDuel Cash?
Yeah, I think ideally I would just pay up for Jokic and kind of figure out the rest around that and fade LeBron. I'm not sure getting both is viable, but if you don't pay all the way up for Jokic, I think Şengün's perfectly fine given the huge discount you get with him and the matchup against Utah. If you want to go even cheaper, Kessler, we talked about. Klingon is okay enough, especially if Williams is out. Like his minutes should be fairly secure. I think you can play Robert Williams, probably more of a tournament thing. But yeah, Jokic is the one you want, and that's what I'd make a priority.
No surprises, but Luka Doncic and LeBron James both officially in. Will, any other centers you like that we haven't mentioned?
Nope.
All right, let's pivot over to DraftKings. Same thing, cash and then tournaments. We'll be able to rip through this a little bit faster. We do only have 6 minutes left to walk, so let's try and go fairly quick. Taylor, who do you like at point guard?
So in cash, totally fine with Killian Hayes. Like you're not needing a huge ceiling there, so he's perfectly fine if you want to pay down. Jamal Murray, Amen Thompson, obviously a core play. That's the one you want. I think small forward might make a little more sense for him. Actually, point guard is kind of weak, so I don't hate that on this slate. I think it's fine either way. That's probably it. Keontae George, I think, is fine. Collier, same thing. But Amen and then Killian Hayes are probably the two I'd prioritize.
Will, who do you like in tournaments? I think LaMelo Ball is really standing out to me at that ownership. I thought it would be higher on a small slate.
Yeah, I like Ball. Give me Maxey also. So I'm kind of at the top here. Ball, Maxey, Thompson, and then Collier. And then obviously, if you want to go all the way down to Killian Hayes at 3,600, I'm not going to fight you on it. Like, I mean, even if you got your 22 fantasy points on this slate, you could still win a tournament. So perfectly fine there.
Good call there. Shooting guard, Taylor, who you playing in cash?
Probably Jalen Green again, just like on FanDuel. Amen and Jalen Green together looks good to me. Otherwise, Keontae George, Tumani Kamara, you can play at shooting guard. I think that's a good value at 5'4". Simons is fine. Wide range of outcomes, but Jalen Green would be the one I'd prioritize most.
All right, Will, any other shooting guards you're liking for tournaments?
I will throw in, even though you can get him at small forward, I would throw in Zaire Williams. And then this is deep tournament stuff, but give me Cam Whitmore at 4,400.
I like it. Small forward, Taylor. You mentioned Amen, maybe like playing him here better, but shooting guard, point guard is nowhere near as strong as we're used to seeing it. I think Avdia has got to be a cash play. And Cameron Johnson looking like a pretty solid cash play too. These small forward is randomly stronger than point guard.
Yeah, that's probably the first time that's ever happened. I think you ran it down though. Abdi and Cam are the two that look the best. Michael Porter Jr., I guess number 3 in that group if you don't count Amen, but I really don't think you need to do anything beyond Abdi and Cam Johnson.
Well, this is the position in tournaments where outside of Avdia, I'm just planning on eating the most chalk and saying I'm going to get underweight there and get overweight to all the other quote-unquote top plays.
Yeah, you can get – I'm kind of running it back here, but you can get Whitmore there. Dorian Finney-Smith, I know I mentioned him already. That's just more of a pure minutes play, a guy that if none of this value kind of gets there, if he gets 25 and the other guys are around the same thing, maybe he ekes them out. Same thing for Zaire. I know Kamara. People have been asking about Kamara. I do think he's good, but Cam Johnson, 5,700. A little bit chalky, but definitely one of my favorites at the position for the price.
If Avdia or Johnson aren't your guy at small forward, you're probably playing him at power forward alongside Jabari Smith in cash. We can skip Taylor because this spot is so damn easy. Will, who you liking in tournaments? And I guess before I do, would you confirm, Taylor, you're probably trying to play 3 of those power forwards in cash?
Yeah, definitely Johnson, definitely Jabari and Avdia. And then I think Aaron Gordon has a really strong case too. So you can make a case for all 4 of those guys in cash.
And so definitely Amen Thompson at the point guard because we're trying to play as many of these small forward, power forwards as possible. Will, who do you like in tournaments?
Give me Dylan Brooks, the guy that nobody wants to play today at 4,900. I definitely think he's a guy that we could squeeze in there, and I'll run it back with Finney Smith again, just kind of giving a name plug with him. I think he's a guy that, could be interesting if all the chalky value fails. I am way more interested in Jeremy Grant here, though, at 5,100. I'm with Taylor here. I think that's a price we shouldn't be overlooking. If he gets you 30 fantasy points tonight, you're probably close to taking out a GPP if everything else hits.
Who you like in cash at center, Taylor?
It's going to be Jokic again. I think, you can play Jabari there. You can play Aaron Gordon there. So that's appealing. Şengün. But again, Jokic should be the priority. And then I think Klingon is perfectly fine too. Like the minutes were wonky in the last game, but I don't think Robert Williams is likely to play. So feel pretty good about him. I'd be fine with cleaning cash.
Love that call. And then I do like the backups, Williams if he plays, or Jabari Walker if he does not in tournaments. How about you, Will?
Yeah, for sure. Once again, I do like Embiid at center tonight at 9,400. Definitely think he's a guy that could put up some nice real life scoring tonight, which would be really cool.
All right, lightning round for questions. DKGPPs. Will, Murray, Gordon, and Şengün, or Westbrook, LeBron, and Hayes?
Give me Westbrook, LeBron, Hayes.
Single entry, Taylor, Zaire Williams, or Dylan Brooks?
I think I'll take Zaire on that one slightly.
All right, FanDuel tournament. How do you feel about Luka Doncic tonight, Will?
Don't like him.
Any Lonnie Walker in tournaments today, Taylor?
No, too risky, I think.
You need a punt in single game. This is for either of you, or maybe Will for the Charlotte Hornets because it's your team. Seth Curry, Josh Green, or is there anybody else you'd rather full out punt with in a single game for Charlotte?
So I'm assuming they're trying to get all the way to the bottom. If I would just play Nurkic, but if Nurkic is,
I assume he'll be too expensive.
Yeah, maybe Salon. But I mean that's getting real thin.
Yeah, of that group, if I had to choose one of the two, I guess it would be Curry, but still. What do you think about Tamani Kamara tonight, Taylor?
I think he's good. He's good value on both sides, so no problem with it.
So Robert Williams is the guy, assuming he plays, but let's say he does not. Who do you like better for value, Taylor? Jabari Walker or Killian Hayes?
I like Jabari Walker more. I just think the ceiling is there, and I don't really think Hayes has it, so I'm on the Walker wagon personally.
All right, we have reached lock, and guys, we answered all the questions too. We absolutely nailed that from a timing perspective. Everything we have left, Will, it's about your guy, Yusuf Nurkic. So I'll give you one more chance to kind of outline why you like him in tournaments, and then I want to know who is breaking the slate.
Well, I just think Nurkic has a chance to put up big numbers. Now, once again, this isn't a guy that's going to play 30 minutes tonight, but I think his upside in limited minutes, I'm going to compare it to Jonas Valanciunas. This is a guy that can play 20 minutes and score 40 fantasy points. I'm not saying Nurk scoring 40, but in 20 minutes tonight, he could absolutely get you 30, which could outpace a lot of this other value. So that's just, being a little bit different in the field, getting off one of the chalky Brooklyn guys or Houston guys and playing him and hoping that it pays off.
Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon both listed available to play. Taylor, who is breaking the slate tonight?
Let's go with Anthony Simons. I feel like he's burned me enough, and he owes me by now, and this is a pretty good spot for it.
Will, who you got?
Give me a B.
I like it. I mean, this is obviously a super chalk answer, but I did write in the expert survey today that Nikola Jokic would have at least 25 more fantasy points than any other player on the slate. So I think he's going to absolutely smash it. But then my sneakier play is I'm going to say the backup center for Portland, whether that be Rob Williams, whether that be Jabari Walker. I think they're going to absolutely smash.
Parker.
Yeah, I just saw the other day, like, flashback to Jabari Parker's freshman year at Duke, and he had all these sick highlights on Twitter the other day. That's what I was stuck in my head. Last question, Will. Aaron Gordon or Jeremy Grant, last spot on FanDuel?
They're about the same price. Oh, man. My heart wants to say Jeremy Grant. My head says Aaron Gordon. Give me Aaron Gordon.
We'll be back on Sunday for more NBA Crunch Time. Myself, Taylor, and Tim, although Tim's having some internet issues as he's in the midst of moving houses. So double check on that. But we'll be back with an earlier start time tomorrow for NBA Crunch Time. Smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our shows. Thanks so much to the live chat. On behalf of myself, Will, and Taylor, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time. Peace.